Thank you for tuning into the Model Connection podcast. I am your host, Eric Harrell. Please like, follow, and subscribe on social media and everywhere you get your podcast. Links are in the description. With us today is a very special guest.
Hey, I'm Mark DiNatale from Mount Juliet, Tennessee. I am a photographer, and I'm super excited to be here on the Model Connection podcast.
Okay, Mark, thank you for being my guest on this episode of the Model Connection podcast.
I am super excited to be here.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm pretty new to the Nashville area. Been here since January of 2021, formerly from Southern California. Been a photographer, videographer since 2012, doing more photography since about 2017 is where I started to take it in a more professional direction.
All right. Okay. You from California. Very quickly, what brought you to Tennessee?
Change of pace, change of scenery. My family and I were big road trip people.
Okay.
And we thought it would be exciting to live in a place surrounded by 8 other states to see things, because we ripped it up pretty good in California for 23 years. We saw a lot of stuff, but instead of trying to plan individual trips to cities and states, it really became like, what if we just move there and then we can see all these things in our course of our stay? And with California being as expensive as it is, and I have kids, one's actually finishing high school this year, we thought, like, in terms of apartments and roommates and the number of roommates one would have. I know it's still pretty expensive here, but we felt like moving to a different part of the country might be a little bit leaner on our checkbooks for that kind of stuff.
Exactly so. Okay, now, in going over your Facebook profile, you are gifted in many different genres of photography. How did you get started?
Actually, I started doing a lot of video.
Okay.
I would do stuff for like live community events.
Okay.
A lot of, like, I got into the low end of the beauty pageant world in California. I started doing stuff at my son's schools. Like, I would do Christmas shows and they would do variety show type stuff. I started doing a lot of that, and I would sell the DVDs to parents, the school, and I would give a portion to the school.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of video stuff for myself. Like, every family trip became a documentary. And then my wife's brother was a photojournalist, and he was always with his camera. And I love photography, but I never like sat to think about composing shots. Or I would just, that's a mountain.
Yeah.
But then hanging out with him, he would start doing portraits for, like, his friends from school. And we would do stuff he would document a lot of, he did a lot of, like, volunteer work for doctors that would help the homeless community up in where we lived, sort of where we lived. And so I started getting into more, like, even if you took something sort of mundane, like making it a little bit more pleasing to look at in an artistic way. And also, so I would do all these, like, video events, and you edit, like, shooting, it's half the job. So if you're there for 8 hours shooting an event, you're only halfway done, because now you got to edit it, make it. And I was never in the habit of, like, going back and watching people's events. Like, I would just do that as a service. Photography became more of an instant gratification for my own stuff. Because if you don't touch the photos, you could look at them at the end of the day.
Right.
And be like, that's good, that's bad. And it was, like, more, I don't know, like, self-fulfilling, like, exciting to me, because, man, like, editing some things take weeks to do. Anyone that does that kind of work knows what that's like. So,
okay, so when did you really take your photography seriously?
So 2012, I started toying around with it more seriously. But in 2017, I wanted to get more into the model type portraits. And I actually, someone told me that when you're getting started, even though it's not ideal, you would, like, pay a model, because they know what they're doing. Like, they know how to hit their certain poses and stuff. Because I was still working out the technical aspect. And I needed a professional to kind of take that off me, because at that stage, it was nerve-wracking because
Of
I was not
course.
good at posing.
Of course.
And so the stuff I did in 2017, which is actually some of my favorite stuff to this day, a lot of it is because she had already been a model for many, many years and
Right.
had
A
posed
professional.
in like Ukrainian Playboy. Like she was a really professional model, and the pictures are still amazing. So that's how it started, and then I was like, I'm my best critic in a lot of ways because I pat myself on the back a lot. I'm like, and I really felt like, for someone that just did this, and the other thing is I'm a big natural light guy. Like I don't use a lot of strobe. Like I don't
Right.
even own a strobe yet, which is
Wow.
I do a lot of natural light and a lot of constant light or outdoors.
Okay.
I thought I liked making sets, but I actually like being outdoors because it does offer a more realism type of thing. So that's the other thing. So I started like really using natural light and learning how to keep shadows off the face. I would take a lot of classes. There was a camera store in LA that would host like all sorts of things, and they'd bring in models, and the guy would go over the settings and how to get the background blurry or how to expose for the background and like all these extreme things. We'd be shooting full sun on the beach, and he'd teach you you can still get good photos, but you just got to know what you're doing. And so I did a lot of that. A lot of YouTube tutorials. I mean, I'm sort of all over the place with how I've gone about coming up with this, but it's a lot of self-taught and self-motivated.
That was going to be my next question. You're a lot of self-taught in your photography.
Yes.
Which area do you like best? Your model, your portrait, your landscape?
So I grew up, and I say this now, I grew up totally in love with Playboy from the late 80s and the 90s. So I've always liked that aesthetic, and I, even though that my lighting doesn't reflect that, I I try to go more of the boudoir angle, but it's a lot of more posed things. Like a lot of times, I do have them looking at the camera. I don't know, but I like that stuff the best. But I still like a lot, like some of the pictures that we might look at later. They're more lifestyle, outdoors, and like style. Like there are some that I put more, like I was more involved in picking the outfits and matching like locations, like, and to have shots that I feel like they could be magazine quality or at least look like they're styled to be like lifestyle photos.
Right. Yes.
There's a lot of stuff like that. I've taken pictures in weird locations, like in stores where there's customers, but you can't tell, the background's blurry. They got cool lights in the back. Like I kind of pride myself on being able to shoot anywhere.
Yes.
And you had a photographer on here. Oh, I forget his name, but he planned everything to the second. And I was listening to that going, I am so not that guy. Like I felt bad. I go, should I be planning more? Because I'm very much fly by the seat of my pants. It's like, oh, what about over there? Like I scope out location. I know where I'm going, but sometimes you don't take it all in. Like, oh, what about over there? And so I do a lot of that. There's a lot of on the fly stuff in the midst of trying to get what you've originally set out to do.
I think when we first start our model photography career, everybody glances at Playboy. Like, I want to learn how to shoot that. I mean, the lighting is just so awesome. I wish I could do that. I've not learned how. I want to. But the 70s, 80s Playboy, to me, was a classy image.
Yes.
Very classy. And that is what piqued everyone's interest. Everybody wanted to learn how to shoot that. Everybody did. I dabbled trying to learn how to do that. I never quite got it figured out, but sometime I would like to. I fell more into the model agency aspect of things where that was not called for as much as just your regular uh, editorial, your commercial look, but
Right.
still, it's still a fascinating aspect. Um, your photography back in 2017, when you look back upon it, are there anything about it that you say, okay, now this was 2017 or even earlier? If I had the opportunity to do this again, I would try this. I would I would do this. Do you ever catch yourself looking at your images and saying, "Yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah. I mean, I think anyone who does anything of art, any artistic endeavor has that because I don't know, there's a quote out there saying that art is never finished, it's just abandoned. Like I forget where I heard that from, but I mean, yeah, from different locations. Like early on, I never moved the camera, so I'd go home with like 50 shots from the same angle, and it'd be a different, slightly different. But now I'm way more into holding a pose and moving around up high,
yes,
down low, and like sort of, but having them sort of hold the pose and getting like less. I want to walk away with less images, but more quality ones. Like I used to just shoot. I'd have like 1,500 images that you have to.
quality over quantity."
So that's something I've had to work on. I have battled with ADD issues for a very long time, which I have only begun to have recently sort of realized. So I have to have like almost like cheat sheets of poses to make sure because I get wrapped up into craziness
Uh huh.
and so I have to be able to say, okay, we're doing like this, and even if I have to draw like little stick figures to remind me, okay, we gotta do this and stuff like that. But yeah, there's always like, or like sometimes an outfit looks great
Yes.
and then you look back at the pictures, you're like, and that's was another thing. Like I'm try to stay more with the details. Like there have been times where straps have been twisted,
Mm-hmm. Right.
like early on, like, and then you think it's no big deal, and then you're photoshopping it, and my Photoshop skills they've gotten better, but at the time it was like you could clearly tell there's some
Yes.
digital manipulation and tags, like certain things like that. So I've had to learn to be way more looking at the whole thing. I actually like when um, people bring someone
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of unofficially put them to work as my second set of eyes,
Assistant, come and fix this.
and especially if it's like a friend of theirs where there's no issues with them.
Right. Uh huh.
So I like that. So and I used to not be like so blatant about it, but now I
Yes.
say you got to help me spot tags, twisted straps and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
they're usually cool because it gives them something to do instead of just sitting there on their phone while their friends doing a shoot or
Yeah.
whatever. So that's worked out tremendously well. It saves me a lot of editing time.
And how many times have you taken an image and you think that's a great image? If you go home and the shirt tag is sticking out, or like you says, some little strap is twisted. I'm like, oh man, why didn't I see that before? I could have fixed that before.
I have so many images from the early, what I call, I guess, the earlier days of that. It was, and that on the flip side of that, though, there have been times where I'll revisit like a group of images that I initially wrote off for whatever reason that
Mm-hmm.
I've since like, wow, that why did I push that one to the side like that? Like I have a different. Sometimes I need time to between staring at these things because when you shoot and then the next day you're looking at them,
Yeah.
like you're too close to it, and
I've honestly found myself, I will get a model pose and then I will step back. Before I pick up a camera, I will look head to toe. Is everything like I want it? If anything is out of place, I will either move myself or I will move the model so whatever is bothering me doesn't bother me anymore. We learn so much from our mistakes. Have you had some happy mistakes that you've learned from?
yeah, I mean, I have images where like I was doing a shoot where the lights were in my shot
Mm-hmm.
and they were super bright, and I decided to shoot anyway, and they look so cool. Someone said once, like, there's no photography shot that hasn't been done before, but I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought I stepped into new territory with having huge bright lights behind the person, and they were still like you could still see their face, but it looked very. It was so not used to what I normally did.
Yeah.
Like some of my stuff, depending on the nature of the shoot, I don't like it to look super pristine. I like it to have sort of a what I refer to as like a rock and roll look, like happy mistakes, not like awful bad judgment calls, like
Right.
silly poses,
Uh-huh.
or but like it doesn't have to be like I'm big with the sort of messy hair, and a lot of times I get the photos between the poses are the better photos. Like these weird moments while they're
Mm-hmm.
going from like I like a lot of that stuff more than the actual initial pose that's finally sort of decided or set up upon. Um, but yeah, I've like outfits that you don't think are going to work turn out to be the best. Like they'll come up with some wacky pair of shoes that they've never worn before. And I usually a lot of times with that, like I'll ask them to bring something that you've either always wanted to shoot in and never have, or like something that you've never worn before, like something like I want at the very least, if all the other photos are awful for whatever reason, like do you have an outfit that you absolutely love that you want to be
Yeah.
shot? So somebody can walk away going, "Oh, that was pretty good."
What has your photography taught you about yourself?
When I first started, and I would hear models say that it was hard work, I used to laugh before I started working with models,
Okay.
and before I had seen how other photographers sometimes act like they don't matter. Like I've learned a lot from like other photographers' crazy behavior
Yeah.
than like I don't understand an 8-hour photo shoot. I don't know. I don't know if that's. I mean, I guess if you're doing like a movie poster shoot or something, that just seems like a long time to occupy and pose and like it seems like a long day to me to be doing that now. Like I have a new appreciation for when they say it's work. I get it because like you have someone arch their back and you get caught up in taking the picture. You don't tell them to
Mm-hmm.
take breaks. So I always say like if I forget to tell you to take a break, just say hold on, I need a second, and like rest. So I've learned to appreciate the the art of modeling more than when I
Yes.
first walked into this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't like how a lot of people that don't do this think it's easy and they want it all for free. That's a big point of contention
It's
that I
not
have.
easy.
Yeah, but in any like if you're a painter, like everybody thinks that art, if you're good at it, is easy. They don't see, in my case, 10 years. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but it's really been longer than that. It's 10 years is like paying more attention to like wanting to do it. But
Right.
there's actually been, we all have these journeys that
Oh, sure,
that,
sure.
so that's and I've learned not to be so hard on myself or beat myself up. Like I try to be a little bit more positive in terms of my own work and not always kind of oh this is awful. Why do I do this? And
You are always your own worst and best critic, okay?
right, I'm guilty of both. I guess.
Hey, we all are. Because I've looked at my images and I'm thinking, why did I do it like this? Well, this is not what I had envisioned. This is not what I wanted to do. Why did I do it like this? I I messed up the whole outfit. I mean, I just hate all this thing. I've done the 8-hour shoots. I've done the
Right,
10-hour
right,
shoots. But now we did, I think something like 11 or 12 outfits in different rooms of this mansion. So it can be done, but it is a tiring
right.
day for both you and the model. It's a very tiring day. Um, One thing that we've also got to do is as I tell the model, we've got to have either a short term memory or we've got to have a very thick skin,
Yes.
or both. Both would help.
Yeah, both would help.
Both
Both
would
would help
help
for sure.
Um, not everybody is going to like your style. Not everybody is going to hate it. You've got to find your niche.
Right.
What is your niche?
What I'm trying to get into more of on a regular basis is the boudoir.
Okay.
I like the classy
Mm-hmm.
image. And a lot of I don't know if it's a headache. It's like I'm just so new here. Like nobody knows me. It's a trust issue. Like I have this small place to shoot in my home. The request from the get-go is odd. Hey, do you want to come over to my I barely have a track record in Tennessee. So the whole setup is quite odd to begin with. And I used to not want the first time I meet someone is, hey, strip down to your underwear, get on the bed. That's a weird way to begin.
Right.
So I used to try to meet people beforehand, but then, not everyone can do that. Like,
No.
So that's been like just getting my name out. So my niche is, so I'm trying to really promote boudoir, but the other part is trying to appeal to the everyday woman,
Mm-hmm.
more of a clientele
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it's a constant juggling act because I like working with models because there's less labor intense instructions need to be given.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, your average woman sees an Instagram full of models and they're like, this guy doesn't know how to shoot a regular woman because not every regular woman looks like a model. So I'm in this weird area. And I'm also in this weird area where I want to put this out in the neighborhood where I live.
Yeah.
But I'm so afraid of like the reputation that living in the Bible Belt has.
Yes.
Because when we first moved to the neighborhood, I was the guy that took pictures with their kids on Santa's lap. And I'm afraid, and I know they're going to ask me again this year, and I'm afraid that is going to be weird to put out there. But I'm in such a weird
I
place.
understand you totally. Okay. I really do. Your in-home studio is great because what other choice do you have? Hotel room. What image does that give a model to start with?
Right.
Okay. Number 2, rent a studio. Not every studio is equipped for boudoir.
Right.
You've got to find one that is. You've also got to find one that is affordable. So you are basically limited to what you can do, where you can do it. You've got the right idea. Meeting a model beforehand and talk it over.
Right.
Okay, this is what I've got. What are you comfortable with? Do you want to shoot in my home studio? Do you want to try to find a studio somewhere that is comfortable for both of us? Do you want the Opryland Hotel room? I mean,
right.
what are you comfortable? What are you comfortable with? Okay. Once you get that part agreed upon, the rest of it should be a piece of cake. Now, you're right. Bible Belt. I wish we could possibly move the Bible Belt up a little bit because I have been fighting that all of my career. There's just no way around it. Don't let that stop you from doing what you like, okay?
Right.
You can still take your Santa photographs. You can still take your Easter Bunny photographs. If you want to, I would say even create 2 different Facebook pages. One for your Easter Bunny, your Santa Claus,
Right.
your family portraits, and then the other page for your boudoir. If people want to go and look at it, fine. If they want to associate you with that, fine. It's what you do, but they've got to understand that is not all you do because you do this for a living, okay?
Right.
You can do your Santa Claus images. You can do your portraiture. You can do your boudoir. You've got to pay your bills. They're not paying your bills for you, okay?
Right. Right.
You've got to do what pay your bills, plain and simple. If they cannot understand that, I'm sorry, okay?
Right.
Plain and simple. So now, your photography, your niche is more boudoir. How have you been going about finding your models?
Mostly Instagram.
Okay.
I am on Instagram more than any 50-year-old man should be. I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
I'm starting to have that myself. Yeah.
It's, I just, there's like anything else. Some days I love it. Other days I'm like, oh, I spend way too much time on this. I got things that I should be doing. But mostly it's like looking for people that are in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people here complain about the traffic where I used to live. I don't see that, but I've had people cancel because Mount Juliet's too far, and they'll cancel like 11 hours before we're supposed to shoot, and that was their excuse. And so I'm like, okay, I just don't know. Like, to me, I see like even coming here, it's like 35, 40 minutes. I'm like, only 35, 40 minutes? Like where I used to live, forget it. Like I'm still in my driveway in 35, 40 minutes.
I've had models come here from Birmingham, Knoxville, Chattanooga. If they want to do something, they will make the effort, okay?
So, but yeah, it's mostly Instagram. And then like, once you do that, it's like, it becomes a word of mouth. Like, oh, anybody else give them my name. So that's worked out fairly well. But I like a variety of faces. Like, I don't mind shooting a model more than once. I mean, that's fine, but not so close together. Like, I want.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it's mostly Instagram. And then in some of these Facebook Nashville photography groups, those are funny because the minute someone says, I'm new here, there's like 50 comments. Everyone's Instagram is like on there, and then I think it overwhelms somebody that's completely new because so but
I relate that to the old presidential news conferences where every reporter stands over there and everybody stands up at once,
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, you were gracious enough to bring some images with you, so if you can, let's take a look at them.
Okay.
And if you will, for the people that are listening and those watching, please describe what we are looking at.
So this is from, I think a lot of these are going to be from when I was in LA. She was a fitness model, or she is a fitness model, but like I said, I'm always trying to expand my boudoir. So what we have here is I believe this was like when the world was still closed down during the pandemic, but we had rented a place not too far from my house, and I always have been drawn to like sexy images in the kitchen. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if this is like a repressed memory from being a kid or whatever. But I just gravitate towards that, and she's awesome. She's up for all this. So we have her in her, I think it's a bikini, but like again, this is all natural light coming in from the window behind her, and leaning over the stove. And she's been doing this a long time, so she knew how to hit all these poses. And,
okay.
And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think I'm one of the rare people that shoots with a Panasonic GH5. Like, I'm not a Sony Canon person.
Wow.
Not because I have anything against them, but the GH5 is really good for video. And since I do a lot of stuff with that, I just can't be juggling a bunch of different cameras.
Okay.
So I'm a Panasonic shooter.
I think you're my first Panasonic guy here.
Whenever someone asks what I shoot with, which I don't really love that question because I don't really think it
shouldn't
matters.
matter.
But I'm always like, whenever I go to a shoot where there's more than one photographer, and I've never seen another guy with or another photographer with a.
You probably won't.
I wear that like a badge of honor. I've always been that way. I've always kind of like, oh, everyone's using this, but it's really because the video capabilities are so good. But I do both. I use it for both.
Okay.
And it's a workhorse, man. I bring it everywhere. Every time I go downtown more than I have this week. I have visitors from out of town, and I've been down there. I bring it with me. I take pictures of the city over and over. I got so many pictures of that Batman building that make your head spin.
Okay.
All right.
And next we have.
So this is outdoor. This was actually part of like. I wish there were more of them here. Like in LA, they'd always have these like group shoots where an organizer would have like 12 models and a bunch of photographers show up, and you get to run around these gorgeous properties.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like 20 photographers on one model. It was like usually there's these big properties and there's enough photo opportunities for everyone, and all different styles. So she was not this young lady was not into the whole boudoir bikini stuff.
Right.
She would show up with like very ethereal themes and like, and I've never planned like the backlight and the on her is so good on this.
Yeah, I was noticing that. I'm like, wow.
And this is like, and also my Photoshop and Lightroom is very minimal. I like the models to look like they look in real life.
Natural.
So a lot of times it's just taking weird things out of the background.
Yes.
Maybe brightening up a face, but I don't do a lot of like, I don't overdo the skin smoothing. I have seen way too many published images of people that look so fake. I don't even understand how when they look at it, they're like, oh, I love that. Like, so I've steered away from a lot of this overly photoshopped thing. So that's barely touched. That's I would say 94% in camera.
Wow.
Like it's a lot of just touching up exposure and shadows and stuff.
Just my own personal take. You're getting pretty close to it, as I call looking up your nose.
Yeah, her head's too far back.
Yeah. That might be one thing that I would change.
Okay.
Tilt it down just a little bit so you won't be looking up somebody's nose. But besides that, great image. Yes. Okay.
And this is a place in LA. It's like not abandoned. It's an old train station that's no longer in use. So it's now like a, what do you call it? It's a historical landmark.
Yeah.
And the reality is you're not supposed to be running around where we're running around, but it was like a Sunday. Nobody goes to this thing.
Why not?
And I don't know. I mean, every once in a while you'll see people from out of town, but it looks like a movie set from like, it's like a train station from like the 40s or something like that. And I just, it's about a half hour from where I lived at the time. And I loved shooting there because like this, again, it's perfectly, and there's no harsh shadows on her face.
Right.
It's like the sun was perfectly on the other side. And I just love shooting there. I mean, this used to be my go-to place.
We all have that.
Because it was just like no one would bother you. No, and especially during the week, it was one of those places that was only open like 3 days a week, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that. And I don't know if it included it in these, but there was a train track piece that wasn't connected to anything.
Okay.
And that's always a big point of contention with us. Like people post train track photos and everybody's just screaming, how dare you?
Yeah.
And I always did it because they weren't connected to anything. And a lot of times I wouldn't put that on there because I just would like the chaos to ensue, knowing that I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Right.
But yeah, this was, I have pictures from like the front of this place. It just looks like a movie set. And I would always tell them, I said, you know how much we'd have to pay to rent a movie set like this? It'd be like $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
It was, I love that place. I need to seek out something like that out here that you could kind of.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some around. We just have to, as you say, search and find them.
But yeah, she showed up with her leather outfit. And when I would do these when I'd film these like beauty pageants,
Mm-hmm.
I would see all these girls. I had to film all the interviews. They would do the interviews, and the organization would always want a copy of all the interviews. So I would always meet these girls, and then as they'd order videos of their pageant and stuff.
Right,
Then I reach out to them if they would be up for a shoot. She just happened to be heading to New York or something the next day, and so we did this shoot really fast. Her mom was in the background on set, making sure everything was cool, and I'm like, "We're cool." But yeah, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. Leather jacket, leather pants, gorgeous girl. And she was very athletic, so she was up for all these crazy Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino type poses I would put her in, and that's one of my favorites.
Well, okay. So this is a pageant girl, or she's a
She-
model?
She's, I guess, both.
Both.
I think
now, probably.
I think she's a model. I mean, she's not married, but she's like her fiance is a professional football player, so
Okay.
I think that throws her in the model category.
Yeah, probably does. Okay. And then we have.
And this is also in Westwood, just on the outskirts of Hollywood.
Okay.
She's like she was the first like Instagram like influencer person that I ever knew. Like I didn't even know that was a thing until I met her. Like she's like pretty successful, but she was always up for. I think I shot her the most because she always had cool location ideas. Because she was in college, so she knew all these like places that I didn't really know about or whatever, and she was always up for. So I've shot her the most over the years, and every time different outfits. Like she was always up for it. Actually, we did like 3 outfit changes that day, and I got some in this like Spanish Steps area. It looks like a completely different location than this, and she was always. She actually used a picture from this series with that shirt on for a back cover of her book that she did.
That is a cool.
That's her too, and the same thing. She's like I said,
Same girl.
She shows up, yeah. So
Wow.
different day, different thing, but standing on the steps. That's a library about a half hour from where I used to live in L.A. It looks like an old stucco sort of mission type thing. And she showed up with that outfit, and I mean, I just love it. Like when you show up like that, half my work is done for me. Like there's like she literally got out of the car. Okay, let's do this. And then there's nobody there. It was, I think it was a weekend, so the library was closed.
Yeah.
And
wow, awesome images, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I love seeing them. I wish I was able to put your boudoir stuff up there, but I thought it might be a little bit too risky. I didn't want to take a chance.
Right. They were. Some of them
have
were.
seen them. I have seen your work on Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
Thank you.
You got my
appreciate
thumbs
that.
up. You got my thumbs up. And anyone that is interested in working with you, I can recommend them just on the images that I have seen. Okay.
I appreciate that.
In the boudoir aspect of our craft, many people don't understand the difference between boudoir and, shall I say, pornography. There is a fine line there, okay? How do we, as photographers, when we approach a model about doing boudoir, if they're not accustomed to doing the boudoir, how do we approach them about the idea of at least trying it?
That's interesting because I've actually run into people that never heard the word.
Okay.
And you have to describe the way I describe it is, and I don't know if this is right, but I call it sexy but not sexual.
Right.
And then it's usually followed up with either images of my own work or samples of like to give them an idea of that. It's not an easy sell in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the best I've been able to do. And some people say, "Oh, I've never done that before. That's awesome." And other people say, "I don't do that." And and that's fine. I don't have to just shoot that. That's sort of my thing. And a lot of times I take the angle of I want you to be comfortable. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to I'm not going to force. I'm not going to if you say you're not doing it, okay, if you would still want to shoot, we can work on something else. You don't even have
Yes.
to come here. You can pick a location.
Yes.
Um I do not coerce. It's all about even like when they're at my place, and a lot of it's obviously discussed beforehand because I don't want
Right.
there's no surprises. I don't spring
Mm-hmm.
anything on anybody.
Right. Right.
And I do say it's your level of comfortability.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get edgy, and I'm fine with that. And if you don't, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna like force you or tell you you're not welcome here
Right.
or stuff
Right.
like that. So, um, it's it it's sort of one of those pictures are worth 1,000 words. Like if someone says, "What is it?" or "What exactly?" Like I think it's sometimes better to send an image versus trying to explain it.
Yes.
Like to just say it's women in their underwear, I think does it a disservice. If we're trying to craft an elegant image, it's more than just that. It's expressions, it's an attitude, it's so I like to just sort of send this is the stuff I've done in the past. That's to me the best I can do I think.
I have always used this term in the past when I'm talking to a lady about doing the boudoir. I want to shoot sexy, classy, and not sexy, trashy. You, as a woman, I'm sure knows the difference. Okay, I want sexy, classy, not sexy, trashy. You decide what is trashy. We ain't gonna shoot it. Okay.
Right. That's the thing because it's everybody's
Everybody's got a totally different definition of what they consider trashy. I mean, it's up to the model, as you said, what you are comfortable with.
I've
Plain and simple.
I've had like I never used to throw my work out there for critiques.
You're right.
My wife says I don't play well with others. I've gotten better with that because, like you had said, tilting the head down a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
like stuff like that because I'm completely unaware of
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm a little bit better now, but at the time I had no idea.
Let me ask this one last question of it. This is part of the episode where I ask my guests, what is one topic to you that probably is, shall I say, swept under the rug, that people are afraid to talk about, people are afraid to bring up, either in our industry or not? Something that is dear to you, something that you say, okay, if, let me example this. If you were Miss America, this is my platform, okay? What is one thing that you think should be talked about?
It's interesting when you first brought this up before everything
Yes.
started to roll. I had no idea what I was
Okay.
going to say. I was like, But now, sitting here, I personally have very strong feelings towards how, like, not just what we as photographers do, but like art has been sort of the importance of it is lessened. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, I guess. Like people think what we all do is easy, and there's not the same value put on it. So everybody wants stuff for free, or like, and that has always stuck in my cross, as a
Right.
phrase used to be, I
Right.
guess. And it's just, and I don't just. It's not because of me. I see it like I go to a lot of like art festivals and stuff, and there's a lot of like people looking at stuff, and I don't know if that's because people aren't decorating their houses the same way, and they're not. But there's, you know, it's hard. It seems very hard these days to make money doing something artistic, which is sad to me. And I've always just like, I don't know how you convey to someone that doesn't know anything about photography that this is not easy. I don't
True.
like to get on, like, there's people in these groups that have no problem like venting their frustration with certain things, and like a model doesn't show up, like they'll broadcast it all over,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's a good idea, but there's got to be a way that I don't know how you get people to appreciate something more. I don't know if that's wishful thinking.
I had a photographer say that you're getting the images basically for free. What you're paying me for is doing the lighting, doing the setup, doing the editing afterwards. Okay,
Right.
that's what you're paying me for.
So I don't know if, because maybe you can't see that part of it.
Bingo.
You see the finished image, and like if you have a really fast turnaround, it really feels like it's not work. Like, and so and it feels like it's only getting worse, because as much as I love my phone, everybody has a phone now, and the one thing they keep upgrading no matter what is the camera.
Right.
I used to never be able to take good night pictures of the Parthenon with my old phone, but I did some the other day that are pretty good by my iPhone standards for just getting a cool night picture.
Yes.
And I never thought that'd be possible, quite honestly.
Okay, Mark, in closing, for the people that want to get in contact with you, how may they do so?
So my Instagram that showcases most or all of my boudoir, and I probably update that the most with my most recent stuff, is at MD Photography 72. And that's the same as my Facebook photography page at MD Photography 72. Those are the two most used platforms that I'm currently on. And my email address is in there. I think my website is attached to the Instagram account, so you can find me. But yeah, and like you could just message me through Instagram or email me. I'm pretty responsive. I like to interact with other photographers and meet new people. I'm still trying to create, get out there and.
Mark, I looked at your Instagram page, your Facebook page. You've got some awesome work. I mean, it's just time will come. I mean, people will contact you. I'm sure of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Everyone that is listening, watching, go there, view his work. You will be amazed at the work that this man is turning out. Contact him for your next shoot. I mean, you will not be sorry. He's got some beautiful work. Mark, thank you for being my guest on this edition of the Malik Nation podcast.
Thank you very much. I had way more fun. I was nervous when I got here, but you put me at ease. So this has been great.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Malik Nation podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe on social media and everywhere you get your podcast. Links are in the description. Thank you and bye-bye.